We are getting into our next game of the night. Going to be Viktorius Secret on the blue side. The new Exalt will be filling out the roster on the red side. And it looks like both sides moving as 5 here as they get these wards down into enemy territory. Looks coming across, checking that brush. Looks like Wobad and Jarrett going to swap spots here. Jarrett going to be headed into the jungle with the Vi pick. Wobad going to be taking that mid lane position against Wilson Jones. And that definitely was a Wilson Jones based decision there, choosing not to send Jarrett up against him. I'm going to take somebody a little bit stronger in the mid category and put him in there. Let's see if that will work out well for them. Wobad not had a lot of mid lane experience within the league itself. We'll see what he can do against Wilson Jones, an opponent a lot of people in this league know hasn't seen a lot of playtime here lately. Like in January, and a lot of the newcomers not very familiar with it. Domo Senpai throwing his hook out there, not quite connected with that. Sinful Baggins off clearing out his blue buff. Meanwhile, Jarrett transitioning to his red area. Rajaku and Jaren in the top lane duking things out. Jaren deciding to bring the Irelia to the party this time around. Rebel seeing a lot of play here lately. The play backward in the bottom lane is going to get Mycroft and enemy. The hook going to grab Mycroft in that one as the Ignite continues to tick away. The potions will keep him alive through that, but Flash was burned and all summoners, except for the Ignite on the bottom side, still active. Wobad having to burn his flash in order to get out of that J4 gank right there. That is going to be huge for him as he continues to battle Wilson Jones here. Wilson heading back to base. Gonna turn that Hunter's Machete into something useful. Deciding to opt for that Ranger's Trailblazer. Flash Q coming in for Jarrett, gets down onto Mycroft, and that's going to be first blood going over to John the Greatest. John taking that Corki into battle this time around. So, showing a diverse roster. Enemy ends up getting hooked there, but Domo didn't have anybody around in order to keep that one going. Bottom lane going to be pushing in favor of the red side. The new Exalt got quite a battle here against Viktorius Secret, sitting at number 1 in the Saturday League so far. Wobad finds himself Sinful Baggins in that mid lane. That is not going to work out very well for him. Sinful returning time and time again to that mid lane and just really punishing Wobad quite a bit. Jarrett with a gank up here in the top lane, and Rajaku has to flash out of that one. So flash burned in the top lane. Gonna be good news for Jaren. Jarrett looks like he's setting up round 2 here, bringing up the backside. Jaren is not within range, though, and the Q misses. Bit of a miscommunication there. Jarrett is duking it out with him in the brush, but Sinful Baggins bringing up the riverside. Jarrett and Jaren are in a rough spot. They've got to get out of here. Jarrett's Q coming up off cooldown. He'll make it out, but Jaren, ooh, taking that spear to the backside there. Both of them going to need to head back to base and heal up just a bit. A really great counter pressure coming from Sinful Baggins in that jungle. Was able to chase Jaren and Jarrett both away from that turret. Jaren electing to use his teleport to get back up into that top lane. Mycroft and enemy making their way back down to bottom. So far, farm totals virtually even in this bottom lane. Mid lane looks like Wobad falling a little far behind, not too much though. Top lane virtually even across the board as well. 8,500 gold apiece. Enemy ends up eating a hook though, the flay backward as Domo Senpai follows up on that one. John the Greatest turns on the Gatling gun. That was a huge amount of damage that just went down onto the new Exalt in this bottom lane. They are going to have to be careful. Another hook like that, and it's a double kill. Wilson Jones getting cut off here by Wobad. Escape to his turret. Gonna have to walk over that minefield. Looks like we may have a disconnection issue. Gonna check on that pause and be right back. And it looks like the action's starting back up. Just a slight hiccup there. Had to get through that. Senpai hooking Mycroft here. Picks the perfect target out. Has to force the heal here. Jarrett is there with his Q. Not quite level 6 yet though, but that kill going to be headed over to Viktorius. Caitlyn with the Q going to take Jarrett and Doma Senpai very low as Wilson Jones is joining this fight here. Jarrett has got to make it out. Domo Senpai in a rough spot as well. Jarrett rejoining the crew though. Sinful Baggins next to fall, but Wilson Jones with a great command shockwave. Going to pick up 2 for his team there.
Red team double kill.
Double kills on both sides. 2 for 2 exchange. This game showing no signs of going anywhere but the middle ground. Gold totals have stayed dead even throughout the beginning stages. Raijikyu ends up getting stunned out by Jaren there, but pops down the equalizer. Ultimate ends up hitting the overheat. Jaren, meanwhile, just staying comfortable, sitting back there. Raijikyu not in the best position now. Jaren going to be able to jump on him. Jaren has the ultimate available in about 15 seconds, and he is going to want to punish Raijikyu with that. Rigel sensing that one's going to come back up, headed back to his turret, and he is going to base. Jarrett making his way toward the river. Deciding to camp out in that river area. Not quite sure what he's going to do yet, but he has Sinful Baggins on his back right now. Sinful Baggins is level 6. Jarrett still hasn't made it to that point just quite yet. Huge power spike going to be available to him once he hits that level 6 and that ultimate becomes available. But for now, not going to happen. The Domo Senpai with the flash hook. John the Great is jumping in there despite the exhaust, getting some brilliant damage down. Enemy in Mycroft going to have to piece out of that one. That is a kill. Sniped out by Wobad. Caught him going back. Domo Senpai in a rough position here. The command Shockwave picks up 3 as Sinful Baggins with the Jarvan dunk. He's going to pay for that one with his life, but that's 2 going over to T&E. Jarrett going to be the next one to fall. 3. 3-for-1 exchange in that engagement. T&E not coming out ahead in that one. Despite quite a good amount of AoE that was put down in that, things just weren't working out to their advantage. And it looks like we've got another one. Gonna check into this and we'll be back shortly.
A summoner has disconnected. A summoner has reconnected.
Looks like that connection issue having solved itself now, and we are back into the action. Viktorius Secret on the blue side, current leaders of the Saturday League. The new Exalt occupying the red side. So far, everything is virtually even across the board, and both teams putting up quite a bit of a fight against the other. Jaren ends up taking a lot of aggression from Sinful Baggins here. Gets the stun off, but Jarvan Lance going to take him out. Sinful Baggins getting quite a bit of success on this Jarvan with the ganks. He's sitting at 6 assists now, highest in the game at this point, and it has really paid off for his team. Viktorius responding with a dragon attempt, going to be the first one of the game, and no response coming out from the new Exalt. The hook onto Wilson Jones. The shockwave not going to be enough to keep him safe with that one. 4-man shockwave there, but 4 versus 1, not good odds. Viktorius regaining their footwork, sieging down this turret. Sinful Baggins goes in hard on top of John that gets bursted, hooked backward from Domo Senpai. Gonna spell his fate as Wobad chucks out bomb after bomb. Mid lane turret going to fall. Enemy brings up the rear here, but not going to be able to secure anything. The ace in the hole just now coming off cooldown for him. Unfortunate. Quite a few targets were available for kill potential with that ace in the hole, but just wasn't quite off cooldown yet. Wilson Jones putting a little damage down onto this turret, but deciding to head back at this point. He has his Athenes, Blasting Wand, and 2 Doran's Rings. He's sitting pretty good. 101 farm to 75. Both mid laners mirroring each other's builds for now. Domo Senpai clearing out a ward there. Going to deny just that much more vision to Viktorius Secret. Meanwhile, John the Greatest, though, pushing down this bottom lane turret, and looks like he's going to snag the 2nd turret of the game here in the next push or 2. Wobad spots the blue attempt across the wall. John the Greatest gets damage down onto it, but Wilson Jones is going to pick that one up. Sinful Baggins in the middle of the mix there, ends up falling. Jarrett with the assault and battery onto Wilson Jones. Wilson has to get up out of this one. The flash fillet gonna keep Wilson back here. Where are you going? Rigel chasing down John the Greatest. Now that double harpoon gonna send him to the grave. Wobad on the run as well, but it looks like Jarrett is going to meet up with him in the jungle here, but Rigel Q chasing Jarrett and Domo Senpai back. Hook coming across the wall, hits Rigel, knocks out his teleport. That's going to leave 3 members of TNE in the mid lane available to siege this turret. But meanwhile, Jaren doing some work in the top lane. Domo really providing his team with a lot of opportunity by canceling that teleport. Sinful Baggins has come up to the top lane to try to stave off the bleeding here. Bit of a lead pulled ahead for Viktorius Secret at this point. They stand up by about 1,500 gold. TNE not showing any signs of slowing down though. Enemy pushing this lane as close to the turret as he can get it. Jared ends up dropping one on top of a pink ward. Looks like Sinful Baggins gonna be clearing that one out. John the Greatest has his Blade of the Rune King completed, working on his Triforce now. Interesting rush going for the Blade of the Rune King first there instead of just rushing the Triforce. But we'll see how it works out for him. He had a great game last game. This time around, 8-3. Sitting on the majority of his team's kills and the majority of his team's gold lead. Domo hits it wide right. The Flay does connect though, but it's not going to drag anybody back. Jaren needs a tower shot here. Going to get a little flame spitter damage as he backs out. Wobad being forced to use his flash to disengage there. Jarrett connects with his Q, gets the assault and battery, but does not end up following Jarvan over the wall. That was a very quirky circumstance. Just as well may have worked out better for Jarrett though. Sinful Baggins bites off a little more than he can chew with that terror dive there and ends up paying for that. Domo Senpai gonna fall as well, but Wobad has joined the fight in this bottom lane. Both sides standing off at this juncture. Both mid laners deciding to head back up, and it looks like Wilson Jones going to beat Wobad up toward the top lane. Wobad getting a little escort assist from Jarrett. Jarrett chasing it after Wobad. Get some damage down onto him, but has to be careful of that burst Orianna can put out. Wilson Jones chasing him down now. Wobad not connecting with any skill shots so far. Domo Senpai there to provide a little bit of peel for his jungler. That death sentence going to keep Wilson Jones backed off as far as they can get him. Sinful Baggins and Mycroft bringing up the back now. Joining the rest of their team as Dragon has turned live, and there are 5 members of the new Exalt on top of it at this point. Jarrett is within range, able to smite it out. Domo Senpai getting the sandwich going, pincering members of TNE to get it. The equalizer being dropped. Jaren is in the middle, throwing his ult down. Jarrett is out of mana though, cannot contribute to this fight. The shockwave hits 4. That's going to keep Wobad and John the Greatest very low health, but they managed to clean things up. Double kill going over to Domo Senpai, and that is a 4-for-1 exchange. Wilson Jones did a load of damage there, but it just wasn't enough. Was not going to be able to pull that team fight off. A 4-for-1 exchange in favor of Viktorius. That's something to head back to base and be happy about for them. Meanwhile, the new Exalt, reeling from that team fight, just lost it by a razor's edge, but ended up losing it by a mile in the end. That's going to put the gold total in the favor of Viktorius, 4,000 so far. Rigel and Jaren still duking it out up here. Farm remains shockingly close. Jaren has his Triforce completed. At the same time, the Haunting Guise really coming through, does a lot of damage on Rumble. Jaren not letting that slow him down though. He is aggro pushing this lane. Gets some great damage onto Rigel Q. Rigel has to use the equalizer in order to equalize things. Rigel is so low. Sinful Baggins ends up getting stunned. That's going to leave Jaren with a clear path out so long as Sinful Baggins doesn't close that gap with his flag and drag. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that. The flash was down during that engagement. Meanwhile, Domo Senpai and John putting the last few touches on that bottom lane turret, and that's going to be another dead one. 2 in their favor. Sinful Baggins retreating back to the safety of his jungle. Takes out his red buff. Not sitting on very much mana, though. He might be going to go ahead and head back, spend a little bit of that jungle gold, and get his Randuins. Sinful Baggins only managing to add another 3 or so assists in the last 10 minutes. Has not had as much success past that 10-minute mark as he did prior to it. Jaren just going completely wild onto Rigel Q in the middle of an entire minion wave, and Jarrett coming in gets spotted out by that tri-brush ward. That's going to leave Rigel Q with plenty of breathing room here as the rest of TNE respond to this fight breaking out. Sinful Baggins getting hooked back now as John the Greatest puts the damage on, and the Assault and Battery from Jarrett, plus the ultimate. Going to take that one out, leaving several members of the new Exalt very low and not in a good position to defend this turret. John coming in here with the help of Wobad will be able to put a substantial amount down on it. Looks like they are going to be able to take it. Wave clear from Wilson Jones, going to force them up off it with just a few hit points left. But at this point, Viktorius know that they can knock that turret down with any wave that pushes up next to it. They decide not to risk it this time. They're going to swing back around and stop this counter push coming from TNE in the mid lane. Domo Senpai and Wobad pairing things up in this middle lane. Plenty of wave clear being offered by the Ziggs, especially with the blue buff on. Doesn't look like any sort of push through the mid lane is going to gain traction, but enemy gets drug over the minefield there. Great hook from Domo. Wilson Jones using the pink ward to find an enemy ward in the brush on his side. Map fairly well covered from both teams on both sides of the jungle. John the Greatest keeping up in farm, sitting at 171 to 152. Just completely outclassing enemy in all aspects of the game. Has his Triforce, has his Blade of the Rune King, dumped a BF sword on top of that. Meanwhile, enemy has not finished his second item, only has an Infinity Edge and a piece of his Phantom Dancer. Dragon has just spawned and both teams are en route to defend that objective. Big grouping up coming from TNE. Jarvan getting in there, trying to get the lockdown. TNE just getting bursted out. Jarrett ends up fighting by himself 2 versus 1 there. His team not that far behind him. Wilson Jones has to flash away. But that is going to be a 4-for-1 exchange once again for Viktorius. And they are showing no signs of slowing down with this Dragon. They're going to extend their number to 3. Their gold lead sitting at 7,500, and they are commanding respect on this map. Domo Senpai throwing those hooks out from the Fog of War. More of an intimidation tactic than anything. He's going to go ahead and head back to base. Both sides sizing the other one up right now, just content to remain on their end and shoot dirty glances at each other over the river. But take a look at Jaren. Jaren is in the middle of enemy territory. He just crossed that threshold. He's got, I don't know if he knows it, but he's got 3 members of TNE all surrounding him. Luckily made it out of that one without losing so much as a single hit point, but definitely ran past a minefield of new Exalt members. Meanwhile, Viktorius have pushed this middle lane up, are in position to start sieging this turret, and the damage starts going down onto it. The shield is broken, and those wards are going to spot Sinful Baggins coming up to support his team. The wave clear going to keep TNE's turret safe for now, but Wobad returning that wave clear quite handily. Minions not being much of a factor in this siege. Wobad not having vision on Simple Baggins, but knowing he's there, throwing those skill shots out. John the Greatest is in between AP carry and the jungler. Not a good spot to be in. Has to take the long way around and had to burn his escape in order to get out of that one. And the siege is back at it again. Viktorius just whittling this turret down, not risking a whole lot. They don't want a full-on engagement on top of this turret. They just want to try and poke things out, take some pot shots, and slowly but surely knock this objective down. But they are not giving up just yet. TNE, meanwhile, just repeating the same pattern over and over, slowly losing ground here. Not really able to formulate some type of counter-offensive. They've got a little bit of a breather right now as Wobad heading off to grab his blue buff. But it doesn't look like he's going to head back to base. Going to continue that siege in the mid lane as these minions now meet. Jarrett attacking the river crab, providing his team quite a good amount of vision. That river crab tends to get underrated quite a lot lately, but especially at this point in the game where Baron is just as much in contention as Dragon is. It's a great all-around pickup. Jarrett going greedy, finds Rigel Q, but not going to make up the difference there as Jaren and Jarrett both get hammered down. Jarrett able to get some distance with his Q. Sinful Baggins is going to be able to pick up that kill with the flag and drag despite the slow.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
The turret in the middle lane will fall, though. That extended siege finally coming to an end, and that exposes the inhibitor turret for Viktorius Secret. If it's anything we've learned about this team, they know how to take their time. They know how to not get caught up with impatience. A little bit of a misplay from them in the top lane is going to cost them some of their lead and some of their advantage, but map pressure, gold, all still in their favor. John going to take that lantern out of there. Minute 15 on the Dragon as the new Exalt look to pick up their first Dragon of the game. But will they be in shape enough to team fight it out with Viktorius Secret? Right now, Viktorius, they're in a position to respond to anything the TNE tries to throw at them. Despite Wilson Jones' contributions, they have lost pretty much every team fight, one way or another. Last minute ward kill there for the Corki. Viktorius choosing to go on this Baron. This was their downfall last game they played, and they don't want to make the same mistake twice. They are getting out of there as soon as they see TNE collapsing onto them, but they are not going to concede this objective quite yet. 2 members backing out of New Exalt, and Viktorius Secret headed back into that mid lane to keep that siege back and going again. Dragon on the map, and TNE yet to grab one yet this game. Not in a good position to get this one either. The objective control this game has been on point from Viktorius Secret. Sinful Baggins retaliating here, gets the knockup onto Domo Senpai, falling very low. John the Greatest has no place to escape, is just duking it out toe-to-toe with Sinful Baggins. They end up trading with each other. Wilson Jones, only one left alive here, and the assault and battery from Jarrett going to clean his clock. That is a 5-for-2 exchange. Ace in favor of Viktorius. What can the new Exalt do at this point? Everything they've tried, every engagement they have attempted to pull out has just not gone right for them. We've seen a few times they got engaged on. Mostly they have engaged on their own terms, in their own spot, place of their choosing, time of their choosing, and still end up losing the team fights. At this point, Viktorius just content to sit back and let the new Exalt keep making these engagements and win these team fights. Jarrett stealing out that red buff from underneath Sinful Baggins. John the Greatest, meanwhile, going to take the one located back home. Thresh going to ride his hook, thanks to the Baron. That lets him get an easy escape up out of there. 25-16 in kills, and the gold total is over 10,000 in favor of Viktorius. Really solid leads that they've mounted here. Take a look at the farm. Across the board, Wilson Jones is the only one on his team that has the lead. 256 to 223 in the mid lane. Everywhere else in favor of Viktorius. Sinful Baggins gets his ultimate down, but he is just not tanky enough to survive a 5-man frontal assault. That equalizer dealing a lot of damage, though. That got Wobad, John, and Domo very low. The ace in the hole coming across. Domo thought twice about eating that one, said nope. John the Great is going to end up getting tagged by that, and that leaves the Baron area open. Nobody on Viktorius are healthy enough to stop this engagement. And if TNE decide to go for Baron right now, they will get it. Choosing not to pull the trigger, though, despite the window of opportunity, and that may end up costing them. Wobad back in lane now, chasing Wilson Jones and Rigel Q out. Getting his wave clear on and setting up for this inhibitor kill. They have been relentlessly pushing this mid lane all game long, slowly, inch by inch, and they've worked their way all the way to the inhibitor. So it should be a fairly easy pickup for them if they can get 5 members to respond. Jarrett finding Sinful Baggins in the jungle here. He's going to make his way out of that one thanks to the flag and drag, but the hook from Domo going to pull him back. Sinful at about half, rest of his team sitting decently healthy, but at this point they're going to have the full pressure of Team Viktorius bearing down onto them. John the Great is just absolutely slaughtering enemy. Enemy can't stand anywhere near him. Meanwhile, Jarrett plugging away in the top lane, providing that distraction, keeping Wilson Jones well and busy. Gets the hook in from Domo Senpai there, and John is just pumping out damage from the back line. So much tankiness and crowd control keeping him alive. Jaren got a little greedy for that one, though, and that may hamper the future of this assault from Viktorius, but they have gotten everything they needed to out of this. The inhibitor is down, top lane's pushing, bottom lane only thing on their radar they're going to need to worry about. Somebody's got to head down there and clear that one out. Quite a bit of farm going to be going to waste as this turret approaches. Wards being put down. Better than a ward. It's going to be Crab Vision over the Baron Pit. That's going to ensure TNE cannot sneak one away from Viktorius while they're headed back to base. So really good pickup from Jarrett. Wobad having that blue buff on again is continuing to push things out, and it has the help of super minions at this point. Both teams dancing around their side of the river. Dragon is coming up. 5th dragon of the game stands to be for Viktorius, and that is going to be a huge power spike for them. With this dragon, they're going to double all their other bonuses and apply a burn to their auto attacks. That is going to be really hard for the new Exalt to fade. After this dragon, I'm not sure what TNE can do to get out of this situation. They are camping in their own jungle, hoping to catch somebody out. Not going to work. The Baron is being collapsed on, and they have to back up and head that direction to respond. Viktorius Secret are just daring TNE to get in there, and TNE knows that they have to do it. They have to fight this one out. If they don't, it's going to be a disaster. If they do, it's going to be a disaster. Viktorius have put TNE in a no-win situation, and they've lost 2 of their members. Jarrett gets the assault and battery over the wall, has to queue up out of that one, but here's John to bring up the backside. Sinful Baggins gonna get tagged with the Gatling gun and those rockets. Jaren's gonna pick up the kill onto Wilson Jones. It's down to enemy. He's the only one left alive, and John gonna take that one out, extends his kills to 14, and this game has gone in favor of Viktorius Secret. TNE putting up a good contest in the first 7 or so minutes of the game, but eventually Viktorius found their stride, knocked it out, picked up another win.